Right. So you're thinking about bringing on like a Sinatra developer onto your team, but maybe you're not exactly sure where to even start. Well,
Yeah.
we've totally got you covered. This mini deep dive we're doing today is tackling like the need to know facts about hiring these experts in Ruby and Sinatra. And who better to guide us, than the folks over at theperfectdeveloper.com. They're like the authority on navigating the world of developers.
Yeah, they really are a fantastic resource.
Absolutely. In fact, before we even dive into any of this, do yourself a favor, head over to theperfectdeveloper.com and try the 5 questions. It'll help you like really pinpoint exactly what kind of developer you need for your project.
Okay, let's unpack this a little. What exactly was a Sinatra developer? What makes them so special?
Hmm. Think of them as like the masters of efficiency in the Ruby world. They build these web applications using the Sinatra framework, which is known for its speed and simplicity. It's perfect for smaller projects, APIs, or anything that needs to be really lightweight and efficient. So if I need a website that's like super fast and responsive, a Sinatra developer is the way to go.
You got it. They're all about doing a lot with a little code, which can be a huge advantage,
Yeah,
in terms of development time and cost.
that makes sense. But what kind of skills should I be looking for when I'm like actually hiring one?
Well, obviously, they need to be fluent in Ruby. That's like the foundation. But they also need deep Sinatra expertise and a good understanding of back-end technologies like databases and API integration. And maybe most importantly, they need really strong problem-solving skills.
Problem-solving skills. Why is that so important?
Because Sinatra is all about elegance and simplicity. A good Sinatra developer can find really creative solutions to these complex problems, writing clean and efficient code that's easy to maintain.
Okay, so I'm picturing someone who's a bit of a minimalist,
Mm.
very precise and detail-oriented. But let's talk money for a sec. How much does it actually cost to hire one of these Sinatra specialists?
Well, salaries can vary quite a bit, depending on experience and location, of course. In the US, you're probably looking at a range from around $60,000 per year for someone just starting out to upwards of $150,000 or more for a senior developer with a lot more experience.
Yeah, that's a pretty wide range. And then there's the whole question of like full-time versus part-time. Freelancer. How do I even know which one is the right fit for my project?
That's where the perfectdeveloper.com can be a lifesaver. They have this incredible database of developers from all over the world with all sorts of specializations.
So they can help me narrow down my options and find someone who's like the perfect fit for my specific needs.
Exactly. They take all the guesswork out of the process. Plus, they have tons of resources and articles that can help you understand the ins and outs of hiring developers, even if you're not a tech expert yourself.
This is all super helpful, but I
Exactly.
think we need to pause for a moment and let our listeners kind of digest all this great info. We'll be right back after a quick break with more insights on finding your perfect Sinatra developer.
Sounds good. So you've got a pretty good grasp of what Sinatra developers can bring to the table. Now let's actually talk about finding the right one for your specific project.
Right, because it's one thing to know what skills to look for, but it's a totally different thing to find someone who like actually ticks all the boxes.
Exactly. And this is where understanding all the nuances of Sinatra development becomes really important. For example, some Sinatra developers specialize in building these things called RESTful APIs, while others might be more focused on creating those fast, dynamic web pages.
So it's not just about finding a Sinatra developer, it's about finding one with the right experience for my project.
Precisely. And that's why a site like theperfectdeveloper.com is so valuable. They go beyond just listing skills. They actually delve into a developer's experience and expertise. They help you find someone who's not just a good fit on paper, but also a good fit for your project's specific needs.
That's really helpful. But let's say I've found a few promising candidates. Through theperfectdeveloper.com, what are some key questions I should ask? During the interview process,
Great question. When it comes to Sinatra developers, it's important to go beyond just the basic technical questions. You really want to understand how they approach problem solving, how they think about design, and how they prioritize efficiency.
so maybe ask them about a time they had to solve a particularly tricky coding challenge or something.
Exactly. You want to hear them talk through their thought process, how they broke down the problem, and the steps they took to find a solution. It's also a great opportunity to gauge their communication skills. Can they explain these complex technical concepts in a way that you can understand? as a non-technical person.
That's a really good point. Communication is definitely key,
Yeah.
especially if I'm going to be working with this developer remotely.
Absolutely. And that's another area where the perfectdeveloper.com really shines. They have this really rigorous vetting process, and part of that involves assessing a developer's communication skills
Yeah.
and their ability to work effectively as part of a team.
Okay, so I've interviewed a few candidates. I've checked out their portfolios. I'm feeling pretty good about my choices. How do I make that final decision? What tips can you give me for choosing the right developer?
At this point, it often comes down to just a gut feeling, but it's a gut feeling informed by all the information you've gathered. Think about who you connected with best during the interview process. Who seemed to genuinely understand your vision for the project? And importantly, who do you think you would actually enjoy working with?
So it's about finding a good personality fit as well as a good skill set fit.
You got it. A developer who's enthusiastic about your project, easy to communicate with, and a good cultural fit for your team is going to be a much more valuable asset in the long run.
This has been so insightful. But before we wrap up our Sinatra developer deep dive, I have one more question. Once I've chosen the perfect developer, what are the next steps? How do I handle all the practical stuff like contracts and payments and all that?
Again, theperfectdeveloper.com has got you covered. They provide templates for contracts, guidance on industry standard rates, and even tips on managing remote developers. They really streamline that entire hiring process.
Wow, they truly are a one-stop shop for all things developer related. I'm feeling so much more confident about this whole process now. Any final words of wisdom before we wrap up?
Right, we're back. And yeah, I'm feeling way more confident about finding the perfect Sinatra developer for my project. Any final takeaways to keep in mind?
Well, it sounds like you've really grasped the essentials you know. Remember, you're not just hiring technical skills, you're hiring a way of thinking. A good Sinatra developer is going to be passionate about clean code, elegant solutions, and making the most out of the framework's capabilities.
Okay, and how do I know if I'm actually getting that level of expertise? Is it all about checking portfolios and past projects? Portfolios are definitely important, but you can also get a good sense of a developer's expertise by asking the right questions. During the interview, don't be afraid to really dig deep into their understanding of Sinatra's core principles, like things like routing templates and middleware.
So I can have a conversation with them that goes beyond just the basics. That's a good sign.
Exactly. You want to see that they can not only use Sinatra, but also understand why it's structured the way it is and what makes it so effective for certain types of projects.
This has been a mini deep dive, but man, it's been incredibly insightful. Feels so much less overwhelming now. Any last nuggets of wisdom before we wrap things up?
Just remember that finding the right developer is an investment in your project's success. Take your time, do your research, and don't be afraid to lean on resources like theperfectdeveloper.com, to make the whole process smoother and more efficient. They've got everything you need to find that perfect Sinatra developer for your project every time.
Couldn't have said it better myself. You heard it here, folks. Now go forth and build something amazing. And don't forget to check out theperfectdeveloper.com and try the 5 questions to get your developer search started.